fogginess.
Like, who starts something with your hand over the camera? Really? I mean, that's
It
it?
was. Didn't you see it was all fuzzy? I was trying to fix the fuzz.
I'm back in the game, ladies and gentlemen, and I wanted to invite someone who could give me real in-depth commentary on something I wanted to really address again. And having found no friends, I called Classic Ruby, who starts out with her hand over the camera because she's classy like that. Did you even bother to share this link on your Facebook yet?
I'm gonna share it in Discord right now because Discord is where people pay
Something
attention
to
to
get?
me. So I'm gonna start
Oh,
there.
thank you.
Yes,
Cool, cool. I appreciate it. Start there.
you're welcome.
While I give
See?
people the who's who and the what's what.
Okay.
A few of you remember that a while back I did a video, and I'll show you. Excuse me. I'm going to show you a link to it. I did a video here. No, that's not it. I did. I hate that I can't see which video I'm about to click on when I do this. There we go. I did a video called "Faces Not Masks" about a week ago. Got some interesting feedback, a few personal comments, and what I talked about is how we all wear these masks of who we are, and we're this way all the time. But the masks are really bullshit, and you have to learn to really integrate your mask into who you are, and a few other things. It's a 15-minute video. I want everybody to go back and watch, but it led me down a few other roads, and I felt like I was giving you guys that scary moment with the faces, not masks, but I want to give you kind of a defense against other people's masks. And I want to tell you about a few things that popped up for me, theories that I've developed and things that I've put in practice over I don't know how many years of ripping someone else's mask off, not allowing them to hide behind a mask. And I brought Classic Ruby because she's a student of evolutionary psychology. If I'm not mistaken, that's the correct phrase for it, right?
Well, that's my subspecialty, but I am a student of psychology, neuroscience, and behavior.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's do this first because I don't want to appear as if I'm starting the show by bashing you. So I'm actually going to let you speak for yourself. How about we'll do it this way? Give anybody just one good reason why they should subscribe to your channel. Go ahead, I'll wait. Can't think of
Oh,
any, can you?
yeah, actually, I can. Thank you
Oh,
very
please,
much. Because
please.
see, everyone else on YouTube is focusing on what, right? And see, I'm the one who focuses on the why, and I can give you a pretty damn good reason why. And not only can I give you a good reason why, but I can actually help you figure out now what to do.
Hmm.
Hmm. See, the reason why you're
Well,
making those faces is because you don't yet understand why it is
here
so
we
much more
go.
important to understand a why over a what. What is just, it's there, it's on the surface. Understanding why is
Call
how
me
you
crazy
work with
because I
it.
deal with things as they are. I don't really need to find out why the engine works. I just need to know to keep it oiled, gassed, and to run effectively. But let's not get bogged down into the weeds.
Not true. Because see, the thing is, right? You, like, let's say as a layman, right? You're driving your car breaks down. What's wrong? Your car's broken. What's wrong? Engine won't start. That's the what. The why is very important because no one can fix your car unless they know why is the car not working. Not just it's broken. It's broken isn't good enough. Why? Because unless you figure out that why, you can't go in there and targeted approach fix the problem so that way the car is working again.
It's a reasonable defense.
I know.
We'll see how it goes. So, hey, Zero the Infinite, thanks for joining me despite my guess. I hope you have clicked the thumbs up. I hope, listen, let me get this out of the way. Everybody, I don't care if you're watching this now or in the future or whatever the new medium is 1,000 years from now when you're watching this. I need you to click subscribe, thumbs up, and click the bell. I'm old enough to remember when all you had to do was click subscribe and you got the videos. I talk about
Mm.
three main things. I talk about social issues, the way we're going to discuss them today. I talk about world travel and my life in Brazil, not necessarily in the same vein, but I talk about world travel. And I also talk about money, saving money, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, financial issues that come up as a result of my having had a financial license and working in the financial business for about 10 years. So if today's video isn't for you, that's fine. Click subscribe anyway. I tell everybody to give me a month. If after a month you don't see anything you like, that's fine to unsubscribe. And so far I've had exactly 2 people unsubscribe, but that's important. That's how I get to bring in better quality guests. And let's see. Oh, Uncle Adrunius. Looks like you've got a fan. Yay.
Hello, 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 hello. See, people do like me. Thank you very much.
That's a person. That's not people. That's a person. Kenny Conjo.
Zero said hello to Ignat.
Greetings, Yusef. Peace to everyone. Peace to you too, brother. I'm glad you're here. You could be, what I say, you could be anywhere in the world doing anything, but you're right here with us right now. Before we even get into my issue, I want to dig into what Joni M. She said she's gonna be back, so I'm guessing she's got some stuff to do. She's an important person. But she asked a question. She said, is it ever appropriate to have a mask? I definitely feel like my life are at times for masks 100%. Me would be a lot. Looking forward to the discussion. If we're going to go by mask as defined in the last video of being a different person depending on where you are, I don't define that as a mask. I define the mask as the person who says, I'm going to predictably be this person at all situations, even though outside situations dictate that we have to adjust to where we are. So I think it's appropriate to shift who you are to the appropriate venue, taking into consideration who you are, where you are, who everyone else is. Ruby?
Yes. Okay. And see, the thing is that, I mean, even if you look at astrology, for example, right? And I don't mean your day-to-day horoscope, because that stuff's nonsense to me. But if you look at your natal chart, right? And so you don't just have your...
Wait. Let me back up. Did you say astrology?
I did say astrology.
Oh, I'm going to Google astrology while you're talking. Is astrology a real discipline?
You know what? It's okay. It's starting to get a little bit off of solid ground, and I don't normally give a lot of credence to stuff like that. But I will say that doing my natal chart, there was almost some creepy stuff in there. Like, what, did someone follow me around to get this information about me? It's interesting because what happens is, and in order to do your natal chart, right, you can't just give your birthday. You also have to give the time of day you were born. And what happens is it tells you more than just your sun sign. So most people know their sun sign. You're a Leo, you're a Virgo, you're whatever. But what they don't know is their rising, right? And they don't know their moon. And then they don't know all the other planets. And so basically, when you start looking at the breakdown, even in astrology, which has existed for thousands of years, you start to see that people talk about, you have the internal, who are you when you are by yourself? What are your internal drives and motivations? What's the thing that you present to the world when you speak to them? You know what I mean? And then who do you aspire to be? Despite the fact that you have a sun sign, like I'm a Leo, right? For example, is a sun sign. So, oh, she likes to be in the spotlight and she's like, but at the same time, my Mercury is in Virgo. Right? And if anyone knows what Virgo's more introverted, likes to read a lot, so on and so forth. So what, is Leo my mask? Well, no, I'm not intentionally putting it on necessarily. It's just, that's what's pulled out of me when I'm in social situations, right? Just like what's pulled out of me when I'm by myself is more along the lines of introspection. I'm not looking to reach out and find social situations like maybe someone else who has a Leo Mercury, right? So even going back thousands of years, we've identified this concept that people are different depending on the situation. This is not them putting on a mask. This is not them putting on a front, making up something about themselves. This is just given a situation, given a particular context, different aspects of who you are going to come out and are going to be more prominent.
I want to first address, just so we can clear things up. And again, I don't want you to think just because I'm proving you wrong that, because I think a lot of people think I don't like you because you're wrong often. That's actually not it. Let's just take a quick look at astronomy versus astrology. See, astronomy is the study of celestial objects, space, and the universe as a whole. And if we look at astrology, it's the study of movement, position of celestial objects, and their supposed influence on the lives of human beings. And I don't even know how to even let me first say this. Before I even go down reading it and giving any credence to something that can't be proven, I'm just gonna say, no matter where you are, brother Neil deGrasse Tyson, please forgive me for what we're about to discuss, because I know we should not be discussing the difference.
No, I don't want you to discuss this. What I want you to do, though, I'm gonna set out a challenge for you. I'm gonna give you a link. Okay,
But
this link is gonna allow you to do a free birth chart.
But
do the free birth chart first.
I'm not doing the birth chart.
No, just do one first before you say anything about astrology and whether or not doing something like a birth chart is some bullshit or not. All I suggest,
if you disagree with anything that I'm about to read, I'd like you to just say so.
Why don't you try it first?
Astronomy is a branch of science. Astrology is considered a pseudoscience. Pseudo meaning not real, fake, like a mock turtle in fables. Astronomer refers to people, scientists who study astronomy. Astrologers are people who use astrology to predict future events.
No. And so see, that's what I'm not. That's what I said.
Let me back up. Do we have a problem with the word pseudoscience?
No.
Do we have a problem saying that astrology is not science?
No.
Okay, so astrology is not science, correct?
No.
Okay.
That's what I said. It's a little bit off of the solid ground versus what I would normally give any credence to, nor do I give any credence to daily horoscopes or any of that, because I think that's bullshit. You can't tell me what my day is going to be like based on where the planets are. That to me, and that's why I've never really given much credence to astrology overall until I did someone who actually had some respect for, who to me is a rather logical person, started talking about astrology, and I'm like, come on. And I did my birth chart the first time on their Say So. I remember the first time I ever did it, it was on BGS's channel. And I was like, wow, this is actually saying stuff about me that I try to tell other people, but they don't believe me because what they read from me so strongly is Leo. But see, what I try to tell people is I'm a Leo because I'm socializing in this moment, right? But you have to understand that that isn't really the way that I am 24/7. And I certainly don't, reach out looking for social settings 24/7, looking to be in the limelight 24/7, the way we think of Leos, right? There are mitigating factors. And the natal chart actually kind of explains the mitigating factors in a way. And it actually goes really well hand in hand with something that we do in psychology called the MBTI, right? And it's a personality test you can take. There are 16 different types of personalities you can fall into.
Personality test?
Yeah, Myers-Briggs, exactly. And so, or you could do the Young-Briggs. The Young-Briggs test itself works better for me just because the questions are a little less wishy-washy. But anyway, point being is it comes out with the same personality test. Now, when you look at what I got, which is INTP, it actually flows really well with what came out from this whole natal chart. And that's why I say, I'm like, I wouldn't sit there and bank my whole life on it. If you want to get some deeper understandings and explanations about the masks that we wear, or things that are perceived as masks when we don't necessarily understand them, it's a good idea to start looking into some of these things. The MBTI, doing your natal chart, read these things, look at these things, because that's going to show you what it is that people are perceiving from you, maybe versus who you actually are inside. Maybe some driving forces you never really understood, stuff like that.
Thank you.
Like I said, I just challenge you, just do the natal chart. You can do it privately. Don't tell nobody publicly you did. Just do it first and then say something or not. And I'm willing to come here and you can sit there and tell me all the ways that you debunked your natal chart. This is not true about me at all. If you can do that, then okay. You know what I mean? But do it first. Just try it.
Well, let's do this first. I want to address a few of the things that I have found to help tear other people's masks off. And if anybody in the chat, and by the way, I'm glad to see everybody in the chat has a little community. I'm glad to be able to be part of that. Everybody here is welcome. And also, please be sure to share this. I know all of you have clicked subscribe. I want you to share this somewhere. Facebook, where else? Twitter. Share it all over your social media, because this is how I get good people to come in, and I appreciate that. One of the masks that people try to wear, that's a very common mask, is I hope you're not talking about the chart. It's fun. Everyone is doing it. My mother told me to watch out for people like that. Whenever anybody says it's fun, everybody's doing it. Stop. Run. It's the mask of authenticity, of authentic concern. I personally, because I know a disproportionately large amount of people in a disproportionately large amount of places, I'm constantly bombarded by phone calls and text messages of someone saying, "Hey, Watt, I don't know if you know this, but I heard something." And I normally stop and I say, "Okay, well, let me ask you a few questions." Now, we're going to build on something that was written long before me by Socrates. Socrates had a parable called the Test of Three. Essentially, someone goes to Socrates, the teacher, and says, "Listen, I just heard something about one of your students." Socrates is concerned, and he says, "Hold on, though. Before you tell me, I want you to pass this little test." The guy's like, "Wait, before I tell you, I have to pass a test?" "Yes." The test has 3 sections, 3 short questions. The first question is, before you tell me what you heard about my student, can you guarantee that, well, can you tell me that what you're going to say is absolutely true? The guy stopped and said, "Well, I just heard it myself. I can't say it's definitely true." He says, okay, well, let's move past that one. Let's ask a different question. Are you going to tell me something good? Are you going to tell me that my student saw a burning house and ran in and picked up somebody's grandma and lifted her out? Are you going to tell me that one of my students was tested in the streets by some pseudo-philosopher and he was able to spit quote and verse and chapter and destroy this man thanks to my teaching? It's like, well, no, it's not a good thing I'm going to tell you. Okay, well, there's one more test. Maybe you can pass this last test. And the guy looks at Socrates and says, "I want to ask if the thing you're going to tell me about my student, is this a useful thing? Like, what you're going to say, is this going to make my life better or his life better by you telling me about it?" And now you can guess where this is going. The guy sits back and he says, "Well, no, I don't know that it's necessarily useful, like, telling you where the gold is hidden or this new book I read, but no, it's not useful." So Socrates stepped back and he said, well, let me back up for a second. You're about to tell me something that you don't know is 100% true, that's not a good thing, and that it's not useful. Why are you telling me this at all? Socrates was a wise man, and this parable has helped me because one of the things I do to create a lot of social disruption is I ask people that when they say, "Hey, what? I heard something." I say, "Slow down. Can you tell me what you know is true? Is it a good thing? Is it useful?" "No, but you really want to know this." "No, I don't." Because why? Has anybody else heard that parable, by the way?
No, I've never heard it before.
Socrates, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link to the test of 3, and I wrote an article called "Watch Triple Filter Test is Better Than Socrates Test of 3. I hope you guys get a chance to check it out. But here's the problem. And Ruby, maybe you can help me with this. Why do people get offended when you ask them to verify what they're saying? Why do people get upset when I have the audacity, the nerve, the unmitigated and the gall, no, unmitigated gall. I'm not to pronounce the words, to actually ask that question? Why do people get upset when you challenge them by saying, if you're going to tell me something that's not a good thing and you don't know if it's true, why would I want to hear it? Why do people get offended when I say, I don't need to hear this information? I've got too many other good things going. Why does this even work? Why is this such a great way for me to unmask people? Because the mask pops off and it's like somebody shoved a little wrench inside and popped off a mask, because now they're angry. They're like, well, I was just trying to help you. Well, have you ever tried to help me before? How is this going to help me?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that such an effective means of trimming down my social circle? Why has that question lost me so many friends? By just saying, slow down, before you tell me something you heard on the street that they say, because everybody's neighborhood's got a they, and we say, well, who was this person? Well, you know what they say. They who?
You know what it is? I mean, first of all, what happened is you have to remember the information they got it in a similar fashion, right? Some random person, whoever it is, went and said, "Oh my God, listen to what I heard." Told them this story. Now they're passing it on like it's true. Why did they do that? First of all, they decided to believe that person like they're an authority. They decided to trust that person. I trust you at your word that the information must be good because it came from you. The end. So now, and this is just point one. So now when they go to you and they try to do the same thing and you reject it, it's the equivalent of you saying, I don't see you as an authoritative, informative person, and I don't see you as someone whose word on its own can stand and be trusted. That is to say, unless you can verify by 3 or 4 different parties, I don't believe what's coming out of your mouth. That's what they hear when you say what you say to them, right? So now that's not what you mean, but that's what they hear. Now, the second thing is validation. What is gossip all about, right? Sure, you've got the people who start the gossip. They start the gossip, normally it's a battle tactic that women have had since the dawn of time. But they start the gossip for that reason. But everyone who's passing it along is doing it because they've got a secret. They want to share it with someone who's going to give them that, oh my God response. I can't believe it response. Oh, thank you for telling me response. And they're going to get that social validation. And what you did is you cut them off at the knees because not only did you not give them social validation, but you basically you put them in their place, which is a hurtful place to be, which is that they are looking for validation in all the wrong places from all the wrong things. And these are not worthy causes, right? Makes you check yourself. And so either you're going to look at yourself and be like, damn, that's true. Or, which is a lot easier for people, they're going to look at you and be like, oh, this guy, he's such a loser. He's never in the loop anyway, right? Find some way of basically brushing it off like, oh, well, this never really happened to them. And they're going to go find someone else to validate them.
So they see it as an insult.
Mm-hmm.
They see the concept of me simply asking, can you verify this as an insult, as in, well, you just don't trust me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Isn't that sad? That in this day and age, thinking is so rare that when you ask for a secondary source, people are offended.
I don't know why. I don't know how to, and it's scary that so many other people are saying the same thing, that are saying, hey, I lost friends this way. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's done a good thing for me. I think it's cost me people that ordinarily I probably wouldn't want to be around. It's probably cost me people that might have hurt me later, because asking for people to act on information that's not verified, nations have been destroyed, relationships have been broken up. And the reality is, I have found my most credible friends don't wait for me to ask for evidence. They'll come to me and say, hey, Watt, let me show you this article that was written. They'll say, hey, Watt, well, I'm going to forward you a link to this website that said this, that involves you. They'll say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
Wateef, my sister, blah, 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 was at dinner with me last night, and this is what she said. Why? Because they have no fear of somebody going and verifying the information, which people know I will do.
Mm-hmm.
If it possibly could do more with the information, and someone is giving than they could. However, if you're closed, you'll never know. I guess it depends on what. Dad, I'm going to need you to open that up a little bit for me. I'm going to need you to explain that question a little bit more. It says, is it possible that you could do more with the information someone is giving than they could? However, if you close, you will never know. So are you advocating that I listen to the information as
Yeah,
opposed
I
to
get what he's saying. What he's saying
help me understand
basically,
that?
yeah, because you know what, and I get that because if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, listen, I have something to tell you," and you shut down the information before you ever get it, right? This might be information that, hey, they might not have secondary sources, but you might be able to do a little digging yourself because you're actually the type of person who does digging and looking for it. And you might actually go down a path and be able to bring this information and a whole bunch of sources out. And it's really relevant information, but you wouldn't know if you didn't allow them to tell you first. And then make a decision on whether you're going to reject or accept the information as something that's even worth looking into.
But I see that sword as having another dangerous serrated edge, because let's say someone comes to me and says, excuse me, and says, Classic Ruby was in a private Discord chat. Oh, by the way, hold on, stop the show. Guys, watch this. Dun, dun, dun. I'm on Discord. Add me on Discord.
There's no H in Discord.
Oh, did I? Holy. Did I? Thank you.
You're welcome.
There. Add me on Discord. If anybody here is on Discord, catch me there as well. I'm new to Discord, so I'm going to have to learn a lot about how it works, but I'm always open to new places and new sources of information. But let's say someone comes to me and says, hey, Ruby was in a private chat on Discord, and she talked about how your mustache wasn't nearly as luxurious as you thought it was because you don't keep it neat and trimmed the way she prefers to see men. Now, for me to go into a Discord chat and even start asking around, hey, did Ruby say something about my mustache and I while she was here the other night? Well, that can hurt both of us, because now I've actually done something in the real world. Now it's going to turn into, hey, watch looking for you. Now all that shit starts building. It also creates a situation, excuse me, where even if I go to Ruby, I'm going to have to say, hey, this guy said this. Is this true? But if the guy didn't give me any evidence, if he didn't even show me the chat, I could ruin my friendship with Ruby, if she was my friend, by just asking that question.
It depends on how you approach it. It depends on how you approach it. Because if you can approach that type of information when you go to your friend like you believe it or like you don't. And so, because I'll do that actually. Whenever someone tells me, so-and-so was talking about you and this is what they said, and I know that person. People might not know I'm close with that person behind the scenes, but I am. I will go and I will say, blah, blah, blah said you said this. And they said you said it here. I'll just say it, right? Now, I'm not going to be like, why would you say that about me, right? I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to give you the information that's going around. This is the information I got, right? Now, if you care about me and our friendship, you're going to tell me that's bullshit. This is what actually happened. Or, actually, a lot of times I'll end up getting screenshots from that Discord server. When did I say it? Where's the evidence? This is what I actually said about you. And they tried to say that when I defended you, they're trying to act like, no, I was actually pitching in or something, right? So a lot of times, right, if you give your friends the benefit of the doubt and you just bring them the information, but you don't come with an accusatory tone, you're not going to ruin or hurt a friendship just by bringing the information out. In fact, if anything, it might hurt the friendship more later on for you to have never told them at all, because then you didn't trust that they would be able to answer to it.
I don't know. I think I've gotten to the point where I realize that because I know a disproportionate amount of people, I'm comfortable with floating. Because my whole thing is, even if they did say it, how much do I really, I don't know. Why don't we let's do two things. One, Mo has entered the battlefield.
How's it going, everybody? Hello, hello, hello.
I haven't seen you in a little while.
It's been a minute.
Oh, you look so friendly. Okay, sorry.
That's
why they call me Nice Mo.
Yeah, I can tell.
Let me tell you something. Ruby, you're a terrible judge of character, because at least people look at me, they know I'm evil. He's pretty, but people make that fucked
It's
up.
the mustache.
Yeah, no, we're pretty sure with you.
Oh, boy. It's a good thing I wasn't born as handsome as Mo, because I would have basically destroyed the world by now. At least people look at me coming and go, that dude looks like he's about to kill it. We need to run.
Pretty much, yep. Oh, see, and hold on, just to say, Gab said that I was spot on with my assessment of what his question was, or his statement.
And Mo, we want to establish that sometimes Ruby is right, and she likes to establish when that happens.
It's not sometimes. Yusef just likes to stay in denial. He does not like me at all. Like, why he continues to invite me on these, I don't. He doesn't like me. You'll see.
I'm sorry. What?
I like how her eyes rolled off screen.
I can't hear you.
That eye roll.
Are you having a technical difficulty?
He muted me.
What? Wait.
One day. I got you.
So, Mo, this is what I wanted to go into, and this is something you may be familiar with. I'm going to give you the quick briefing on. We talked about at the first part because I'm going to go into a little deeper. Socrates' test of 3. When someone came to Socrates and they said, "Hey, I heard something about your student," and Socrates said, "Slow down. Before you tell me, you got to pass this test." And the guy was like, "Test?" He says, "I'm going to ask you 3 short questions. One is, well, do you know that this is true, what you're about to tell me?" And the guy said, "Well, I don't know for certain it's true." I said, "Okay, well, can you tell me if this thing is good? Are you going to tell me something good about my student?" The guy said, "Well, it's not necessarily a good thing." So he said, "Okay, well, maybe there's still hope." The last thing I'm going to ask you is what you're telling me useful? And he said, "Well, I don't necessarily know. It's just something I heard." And he said, "Well, if you're going to tell me something that's not good, it's not useful, you don't even know if it's true, why don't you just don't tell me? How's that? Just don't tell me. Done." And that was the parable. I went on, and before I go to my section, I want to read what Gab said. "If you see the world as good and evil, I could see how you would have problems accepting any information. You should trust in your God to help decipher once the mind is mature." Well, let's do a couple of quick things, a little bit of housekeeping.
Okay.
Let me first do this because he said a couple of things that need to be addressed, and I don't want to let things go by. I think that often it's easier to just let things slide by for the sake of consistency, but this is why we have YouTube. We can have the time to go into those deeper conversations. So the first thing I'm going to do is, and by the way, I'm not here. This is not an attack. This is not a, "Oh my goodness, he got dunked on" moment. It's just that I always want people to, let's see. I did a quick chat once that I hope everybody gets a chance to look at. But I'm gonna show. Let's see, where is it? I did something called Godless Heathen Protection Services because I'm an atheist. I have no gods. And I also talked about atheism, gentrification, race, and immigration on a chat a year ago. We had a bunch of people on that one. So I want to just get this out there that using a deity as a motivation for me doesn't really hold merit. I would love to hear any critical thought you can come to me with, any breakdowns of why my reasoning is incorrect, because I'm always willing to learn. But for people and a person, I'm only speaking for myself, who holds no gods, using faith of any kind is the functional equivalent of believing in natal and birth charts.
Okay.
And by the way, I don't see the world as purely good and evil. There are shades of gray. But I also don't have problems accepting any information. But I only accept information that can be verified. What did Ronald Reagan say? Trust but verify. And as I was saying earlier, my best friends, the men that I trust the most, will come to me and they'll say, "Hey, Watt, I heard this. Here's the newspaper it was printed in." They'll say, "Hey, Watt, I was having dinner with so-and-so last night. This is what they said." Because they know I'm going to always verify it, but that's how you build that rock solid foundation so that when you say something, your word is gold because you're not going to say it without evidence. I've known, about half the secrets I've known have been correct. I suspect that the things you've known as well have been correct if you've known secrets. About half of them are right. The problem is I keep my mouth shut if I can't verify the secret I know, because I'm not getting into that shit with anybody. Because I've seen small things turn into big things. Because whether or not it's true has nothing to do with whether or not you can prove it.
Right.
It's true. You can't prove a negative. So And this is actually why gossip has been the war tool for women for 10,000 years, because you can't prove a negative. So starting off a gossipy rumor or lie about a virginal woman who, oh, she's a dirty whore, trust me, she's doing all this stuff behind the scenes. How do you prove a negative? How do you prove you didn't do something when there's no evidence of you
I like
not
how
doing
Ruby
it?
goes to the extreme. She just takes it right to the edge. Dirty
Yeah.
whore.
Yeah, no, this is what women do. Like that's why I would never go back in time and become a teenager again or to be young again. Oh hell no, I would never be a teenage girl again ever. And that's what they do. And you can't prove a negative, so you're stuck.
But people continue to do that, I feel, is because it's effective. And so we have to realize like the power of false information. That's why for me, like I always believe in those Socratic 3 rules, but I think it's also a good idea to take in all information regardless. Whether it's true or whether it's not, it could be a linchpin and it could be useful for me at some time. And I'm a pragmatist deep down. And in my industry and what I do, having information, false, true, I can verify it later, but hearing it sometimes is just what I need to do to get that extra edge. And I'm okay with using that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Different path. Well, let's do this. If we go on to a few things that I wanted to tag on to the Socrates test of 3, there are a few things that, and again, these aren't original ideas. These are things that were brought to me by other successful men that I've helped to incorporate into my line of thinking. The 3 questions that I always say is, who told you? And if I sense any hesitation, if I sense any, ooh, let me think, or if they say, well, I can't discuss that, well, why would I want to talk to you in the first place? Why would I even want to be involved with somebody who can't look me in the eye and say, hey, Mo said, blah, blah, blah. Because here's the problem. If you don't have the stones to stand up and say, this is what I heard, this is what I'm going to say and put my name on it, why would I want to be in that situation? I know who I am. I know that I don't say, we talk about the Jumbotron test is something I was talking about. I don't say or do anything online or publicly or in front of anybody that I can't have you repeat and say, watch, you did it. Now, if I ask you to repeat it and you do, you've broken confidence, but I'm not telling you anything that I've done that's going to get me jammed up.
But I do want to know about it because I think that no matter what, often people like there's only really like 2 reasons, right? A couple reasons that people tell you something. One, either they believe it's true to you and useful, or 2, they believe that it's false and then they can trick you by using it. And so it tells you what people think about you and maybe something that you'd be interested in. Because regardless of who someone is, good, bad, whatever, and all those shades of gray, there is some like part of people that want to be utilitarian. And so if someone is bringing me like gossip about someone sleeping around at like my job or something like that, I don't care about those things. But it does tell me if that person tells me information like that they think that I would care about it. And that tells me more about them. So I'm always down to take in information. Am I always about using it? Not necessarily, but I never know when things will be useful for me to use because I work as a kind of a pseudo private contractor in my line of work. And so like every bit of information that I can use to piece together something for getting my next contract or my next site that's like maybe useful for me, I'm always down to hear it. And it always tells me what people think about me too. So I like information, false, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I just
and if
try
I
to
could
get
add,
it later.
sorry, if I could add too, see, the thing is, and I have used this as a tool my whole life, someone who tells me these gossipy things, true or not, right? Especially if they're true though. And you're telling me this about a friend, for example, I know that I should never tell you anything about me because I know that as soon as you're angry with me, you are going to tell everybody, right? So what kind of information a person tells you, who they're telling you about, what circumstances they're telling you under, that gives you a lot of information about the people that you're dealing with, right? And it also gives you a lot of information, yes, that maybe you store for later about someone. Hey, maybe it's true, right? Just because someone's doing it maliciously and spreading it maliciously doesn't mean the information is inherently untrue. So it might be true. And that knowing that knowledge about that person might help me better protect myself when dealing with that person in the future. Now, am I going to sit there and just move on every gossipy thing and, oh, that's it, she's a whore, I'm never talking to her again? No. But I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind and I'm going to accumulate a database of information. And if most of the information about this person that I receive from them and from others and from interacting with them goes against this gossipy rumor, I'm probably going to dismiss the gossipy rumor. But if I start seeing things that are kind of red flaggish or borderline, right, and then I might combine it with what I've been told and been like, yeah, you know what, since it's borderline, maybe I should go over to this side where they're not quite kosher people.
Well, that's the thing. I always tell people, no matter what, never snitch on anyone, no matter how good the deal looks or what you have to gain. Because what you lose in reputation, particularly as a man, you'll never get that back.
I don't agree with that. I think that sometimes snitching is useful, especially when you talk about like in the classical sense of doing lots of prison time or something like that. I don't know. You should really, really think carefully about that, because I've worked in prison as a prison nurse and it is horrible. And like sometimes it's like reputation or horrible stuff happen to you in prison. Just to be as an honest person, what most people do is they do snitch. So I think a better thing is not to get caught up in things that would, if you know yourself, not to get caught up in situations or you could be compromised so much that you'd be willing to give up an important moral like that for you.
So here's what we're talking about then. Before I even go into the other things, we are talking about something called the prisoner's dilemma. Are we all familiar with the prisoner's dilemma?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Which one of you wants to open up? Actually, Mo, if you want to open up on that, since it was your...
I don't understand in the sense of the word. Are we talking about in a certain situation or?
Okay. The prisoner's dilemma.
I mean, is applied to a real world thing?
Well, here's the thing. Okay. If we have, do you want to explain this to them?
It's just that two people that are rational that refuse to cooperate for an equal good, right? Okay. I guess that thing kind of brings up.
The thing is with the prisoner's dilemma, right? So the two prisoners are not talking to each other during this time. This is a very important part of the prisoner's dilemma. They cannot talk to each other. And so they are both presented with a situation, right, where you can either stay silent or you can cooperate. Now, the problem is if you stay silent and the other person stays silent, right, then you both are going to only serve a year, right? But if one of you decides to betray the other, right? So I'm going to stay silent. My boy over there, he's going to betray me. Well, he gets to go free. I'm going to serve 3 years, right? If we both decide to report on each other, we're both going to serve 2 years. So it's actually in our best interest, right? Technically, if it's in our best interest for one of two things to happen, right? Either for us to be the rat or for both of us to stay silent. The problem is you're not talking to the other prisoner. So you don't know what they're going to do. And that's where the issue comes in, right? I mean, we see this all the time in cop shows where they break two people apart, right, and sweat them. And then you try to say, oh, he's ratting on you right now. He's telling us the story right now. You know, you better tell us the story first. Whoever tells us the story first is getting the deal, right?
But wait a minute. Okay, first of all, what I think you're talking about, because I have a cousin who was put in this situation, and he did the crime, let's be clear. He was told first to squeal gets the deal. Now, here's the problem. This is where having a reputation as a man who simply doesn't snitch under any circumstances can save you not just time in prison, but your life. The problem is you can only seek out other men who share the same predilection.
Okay, so I think that one big thing about it too is that realizing that no matter who or how you think you know somebody or how you think you know yourself, everyone does have a price. And you don't always know what that price is. So even a person with that impeccable reputation, they have a price where they're willing to do things that you wouldn't expect them to do. So I don't know. The prisoner's dilemma is always a hard one. And it also depends on how well you think you know that person. And I guess based on just overall, just overall statistics, most people take plea bargains and they snitch because no one really under a certain amount of pressure really does very well. Human brains just aren't made to work that way.
Well, let's move forward then. I want to move forward to one of the other three questions that I put up. So the first question, of course, was, okay, well, explain to me first is who told you. Let's get past that. Let's talk about the other one that I think this is often misunderstood and overlooked. I always say, really, this thing you know, when exactly did you find out? That one catches people. Nobody's ever ready for that question. When they come to me and they say, okay, well, I passed the test of 3 and I've got this information, I look them in the eye and I say, how long have you known this? Now, if you just heard this yesterday and you're calling me today, Okay, or maybe you heard it 5 minutes ago. But if you've been sitting on this information, my question now becomes, what makes now strategic time for you to unload something to me that's not a good thing? Nobody's ever ready for that. Nobody's ever ready for that question.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Well, I mean, but if they're liars, right, then they'll have an answer that's, I just found out, right? I mean, if that's the thing. You know, if they're telling the truth, the problem is, what a lot of people don't want to admit is that they sit on information, which, I mean, really, it's not a thing to be ashamed of because everyone does it. Right? Everyone sits on information that they get. No one necessarily acts on every, you tell me a secret, I find out something about you. Okay, now I'm going to go and tell the world. That's not really the way that we work. Right now, the question is not really necessarily like, you know, as you said, when did you find out? Although if you're being honest, the when you found out, well, now you're going to have to admit you knew this thing. And then you're going to have to admit why it is that you decided to betray a secret, because it's obviously a secret. You decided to keep someone's secret for days, weeks, months, years, however long it has been. And now you've decided to betray that person, right? Which now, again, is speaking a lot about you. A lot about you. And people don't like that implication about themselves.
Well,
Let me go off script for a quick second, because a buddy of mine just popped into the room, LAR Movement. And because YouTube is one of those places where you can be friends with everyone, I want everybody to take a minute and go subscribe to this guy. Go subscribe to LAR Movement, because he's got some legit content that's different from mine. And he gives things through a different lens. He's always welcome to that. I always shout out my friends, because I didn't become as moderately successful as I am without having good people to mentor my stuff after. And, you know, one of the things that he showed me is you don't have to always make a 2-hour video. One of my biggest, I love to turn on the camera and just go. And he's good for putting up a short snippet of information that you can take with you. So I try to do that once in a while. I fail most of the time, but it's a good standard to try for. I mean, most of the time, you know, I'm going to be here for a while. But whenever I do a short, discrete type package video, he's one of the people that help get me there.
For my point, I was saying that we always like the content of information. I think sometimes how it's delivered is equally important. And sometimes you ask people jarring questions just to see the reaction, and the reaction of how they display that information to me is almost more important than the real answer. And I think that's a thing that I like about information, because I always assume that everyone most of the time is lying. And I don't know if it's extra cynical, but it's probably more true more often than we think. And whether they're lies because they know that they're not telling the truth, or whether they're falsehoods based around our perception of reality or how that's important, I think that's something important to look at as we judge what truthfulness and the validity of information really means. It's all about how it's delivered, not necessarily what the content of that information is.
It may be both. It may be a combination plate of both of those things.
It often is. Nothing is binary, right?
Right. Nothing is a 0 or a 1 unless you're a computer. Everything else, you've got grades and variants. And remember, we all look through things through our own eyes and our own lenses.
Right.
The next part that I want to get to, and this is my last one, and this is something that, again, it gets people a little upset.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, do you have a history of gossip? If your reputation is on the line, will other people say you snitched on them? Are you someone they can look at and say, he said that? No, he doesn't gossip about anybody. Now, that one could be a little offensive depending on how that's delivered. But if you look someone in the eye and say, so what's going to happen when I say, hey, you told me this, now I'm going to go track down that information? What's going to happen? Are they going to look at me and say, oh, well, if he said it, it's probably legit? Or are they going to look at me and laugh and say, that knucklehead, he tells bullshit lies all the time? How much is your reputation going to play into this? Because when I go seeking this information, I'm going to be able to say, hey, this guy over here, he said some things I need to follow up on, so I'm following up on it.
You know what? I will say there's a difference between someone who is a shameless gossip and someone who is a big fat liar. Because the thing is, you've got people who they're always in the know. They always know everything and they can't keep a secret. But that being said, they're not liars. They're not lying on people. They wouldn't lie on people, right? And then you've got people who make stuff up, right? They make stuff up so they can be relevant. They make stuff up so they can be popular. They make stuff up because they're angry, right? You've got people who are maybe a combination of those two things. So I do think those are two different reputations that we're looking at there. But the thing is that someone who's a big fat gossip and tells secrets all the time and whatever, if they're your friend and you ask around about this person, there's a good chance people are going to be like, oh, well, no, she's a good girl. Oh, no, he's a good guy, right? Because they don't see this person sharing that information with them as them gossiping. They see it as a sharing experience between friends. It's what friends do. Friends keep each other in the know, right? So they're not going to see it as gossip. So I think it's a tricky question, because I could say, oh yeah, no one would ever see me as a gossip ever. I don't ever gossip, right? And people might say that even though you are actually a big fat gossip, because you can't keep anything to yourself for 5 seconds. As soon as you find out, you go tell your whole Discord server, right? But everyone in the Discord server likes the fact that you tell them everything. So they're not going to put you down for doing it, because then they'll stop finding stuff out from you.
But they know not to ever talk to you.
Oh yeah, they know not to tell you their secrets. They're not stupid, right? But they're not going to tell you that, is my point. Right? Because it doesn't benefit them.
That they want to have spread. Because like, I think everybody likes to find out people that are big mouthpieces that'll like tell a whole bunch of things. Because sometimes you do want something to be leaked on purpose, and finding out people that love to spread information is also useful. So like, there's a difference between like how important truth really is to like forwarding someone's objectives and goals in multiple situations. Sometimes it's not important that it's true. Maybe it's just more important that it's said and that lots of people know about it.
Are you serious? It's always not important if it's true. See, the thing is, right? So, for example, someone doesn't like me, right? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing juicy enough to ruin my reputation that they know or that they can find out about me, then they are just going to make something up, because they understand. And I said this earlier to Zero, said it's the first to market concept, right? I can't prove a negative. Everyone knows I can't, right? But the thing is that everybody knows that they can take terrible information and start disseminating it. It's going to get spread, and now that it's common knowledge, right? It's a general thing that everyone's talking about. It seems to be true because people believe it, right? Why do we believe there's a God? Because everyone believes there's a God. How do you know there's a God? Because everyone believes there's a God. It's the exact same concept. How do you know she's a whore? Because everyone believes she's a whore, right? It doesn't matter that it's true or not. It was the first to market concept that went out. So it's very hard when someone sets you up that way to fix it.
Because we're using phrases that may be specific to our industries. Mm-hmm. Can you explain first to market?
Okay. So you can invent something, right? But that thing in and of itself is not, you can't put a patent on it. Whatever that thing is. Let's say, I don't know, I invented a remote control for my lights. Can't patent it because there's already, nothing in it is original enough that I can patent it. So what you want to do then is you want to make sure that product is first to market, as in you make sure you develop it, no one finds out about it, and you start selling it first with your brand name, and you splash it everywhere, right? Now, a whole bunch of people are going to come out and make the same thing as you, but you're going to still stay top in sales and continue to grow and bloom because yours came out first. Yours is the recognizable name that everyone associates with that product. So even though there's a million other ones, people don't look at those like it's the remote for the lights, right? They look at your brand because yours came out first and got spread everywhere before everyone else came out with theirs.
Like Q-tips, and everyone else has to be a cotton swab. Right.
Like, I don't know. I call them Q-tips. That's not, they're called cotton swabs. Right, it even says it on the Q-tip. I have a package somewhere. It says it that they're cotton swabs. But what do we call them? We call them Q-tips, or we call it a Kleenex. Right? We don't realize that that's even a brand. Right? Like, it's just that's the name of the product. Why? Because it was first to market.
So when we talk about that first to market concept, saying something first, but I don't know if first to market works when you're saying something that's not true or unprovable. Because no matter what you say, it's not like you called a fight. Like you said, hey, I know this fighter's going in with a broken ankle and nobody knows about. If you're going to place your bets down, bet on the other guy to lose, blah, 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 blah. Well, you were first to market, and they can recognize you as this oracle, and now they're going to pay you for their gambling tips because they recognize the things that you said first. Even if the other organizations came out with it, well, your reputation is bolstered because you said the correct thing first. The best, most modern example I can give is, I'm not a basketball fan. I don't know anything about basketball, but my condolences go to Kobe Bryant and his family and the families of everyone who died. But we also know TMZ News, which is a dirt rag, right? That's what they get their money on. Why do they keep getting so much traction? Because they were the first to report his death even before the family knew. And because we are all vultures, that's going to give them more credibility, not less, because they reported something that is true early. So I don't know if there's any first mover's advantage to gossip or lies.
Yes, there is, because it doesn't have to be true. It has to be what's verifiable. So in both of your examples, you talked about things that are verifiably true. Kobe Bryant is dead. And like if you had a fighter that did have an ankle issue or an ankle problem, when he steps up to fight and he actually has that problem or issue, it's verifiable if it's there. We can look in something like politics or other like social discourse to see how well first to market actually is useful. Look at Donald Trump, his first to market plan. I think he's a despicable person, but just making up ridiculous rumors. He had one about Michael Bloomberg, about him needing a podium because he's so short. It doesn't matter that it's true or that it's not. It's never been a thing. But if you have people talking about it, it suddenly becomes a thing that someone has to deny. And it doesn't have to be something that's even usefully verifiable in the world of politics or popularity. If you waste time trying to dispel something, then already you're wasting time towards like putting out your true message when you're fighting other messages. So I think that politics and power, especially soft power, is always bolstered by first to market policies. It doesn't have to be true. It's almost more useful if it's almost not true, but difficult difficult to verify.
See, that's the problem. When something is true, you are constrained by the confines of the truth. What is this actual thing? But when you've made something up, you can lie about it and you can make it acceptable to anyone because it's not confined by anything, right? There's no borders to it. So you can morph it in any way you need to in order to make it acceptable, right? So you think about the idea of the podium thing. Well, if every time he's speaking, he's behind a podium and you can verify that every time he's behind a podium, then all of a sudden it becomes true. Well, no, that's not why he's behind the podium, but it doesn't matter. He's spoken behind a podium before. You can take a screenshot. He's behind a podium. Well, that's not why he's behind there. Prove it. See, this is the problem. You can't prove a negative. So it's like in and of itself, you even trying to prove the negative is giving credence to the lie.
And it helps win.
Right,
helps
exactly.
Threw that out there.
I noticed both of you look like you're smoking methamphetamine.
It's a vape.
I'm not even going to verify or deny it. I'm not going to waste time on it. I'm moving on.
Methamphetamine. Like, well, how do we go there?
Because both of you are smoking it, and I noticed your attitude changing. I think you're smoking methamphetamines.
Oh, man. I love my nicotine. Ooh, no. It's actually, for real, is nicotine. You can get vapes that do marijuana, though. Right, so or cannabinoid oils, but yeah, no, mine happens to be nicotine.
Sure.
Although I have a prescription for the weed ones. Although I live somewhere where you can just do it for free and it's legal. So,
for some reason, it makes it sound funny anytime someone says "do marijuana." You can get ones that do the marijuana.
I know, I'm a loser. I understand. Okay, I'm just not cool enough to use slang. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do some MJ, Mary Jane, right? Like,
that's what the kids are doing these days,
right? Some Kush.
When I was your age, I was doing heavy bench presses, heavy squats, and random women.
That sounds like fun. I guess
they're not.
I gotta tell you,
you can do all of them. You can also add in nicotine to those.
I can't see how that would have ever helped me.
You what?
I can't see how that would have ever helped me.
No.
Oh, not having to go outside after you're done? That's what got me onto vapes, actually.
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you this. I smoked for 16 years. There was absolutely nothing. I actually liked smoking. Like, it wasn't even a thing where, I hated smoking. I felt like, no, I actually loved smoking. And
why
so to me,
in past tense, you're smoking right now, Ruby.
No, actually I'm vaping. It's very different, actually. And one of the things is that you're not inhaling something that is burning. So the carcinogens just from burning something and inhaling it alone, you're not getting that anymore. The other 5,000 chemicals in cigarettes, you're not getting anymore. The incidental antidepressants they're throwing at you and the formaldehyde they're throwing at you in cigarettes, you're not getting anymore. This is actually a very effective way. You get your nicotine and then you can slowly drop your nicotine levels and get it out of your system, so that way you're no longer reliant on the nicotine until there's no more nicotine. You can go for flavors if you want after that, or you can just stop. So for me, a 2.5 pack a day smoker who was never going to be able to stop, there's like no way.
For everybody who's watching, the Nile is not just a river in Egypt.
Oh no, do some research on that one. That, like, I'm not even going to like joke around about that. Vaping saves lives, for real.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure it does. Yes.
Well, as the medical person here, absolutely, most of what you said is true. The big difference is we're talking about a difference in chemical changes versus a physical change. Changing a liquid to a vapor is a physical change and doesn't cause an extra carbon, so you don't have those free radicals, which actually damage cells and increase the chance of carcinogens. Is anything for free? Absolutely not. But neither is bench pressing or lifting heavy weights. It raises your blood pressure. So, of course, it's like not ideal to do anything at all like that. But is it as negative as cigarettes? Absolutely not. And there's no real study that's shown that. It's about a
there's a 200-page report. There's a 200-page report of research. Like, because you said there's no study. I'm like, there's like 200-page report.
No, I said there's no study that shows that using vapes is more dangerous than cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
I
was like, what?
She's doing the meth over there. She's like, hang on a second.
That's right. That's why I'm so antsy. I'm uppity now. That's right. Got it in my system. Get it.
No, I totally agree with that. It's about 1,000th of the risk, and that's one that I feel absolutely.
He's got a little vodka to wash down that meth.
Damn right. No, you know what? It's just because, like here and so many different places, they actually accepted vaping a long time ago, and as a result, there's smoking rates are. I mean, God, our smoking rates in some places are almost nil now because everyone who was smoking is vaping.
So watch it. I'll tell you where I get my discomfort with things that are true and not true, because some people know this about me and some people don't. If you're watching for the first time, you've never seen this little spiel, but if you have, you know where this is going. I don't make money off YouTube. I'm actually an editor, copywriter, proofreader. I make a lot of my income as a professional resume writer. I also edit books, newspapers. I ghostwrite websites. And a lot of people don't know that when I was young, I did a little bit of political writing for political candidates called speech writing. And you will be amazed what they told me I could just go ahead and say with absolutely no proof, because I was writing, this is this and this is that. And we negotiated this. And he was like, well, you need to tell them this. I'm thinking that's bullshit. But hey, so that one day I'll talk about that. And I'll tell everybody, by the way, catch me on LinkedIn. My name is YusefWateef Thornton. I'm the same person everywhere. I don't go under pseudonyms. This is me. But I tell everybody when they go on to not look at my resume first, to go all the way down, past the volunteer stuff, and look at my recommendations, because these are all the other professionals the world over who will tell you that I am a legitimate business person, that I bring quality to my clients all over the world. And this is where I tell people to look first. Always look at who speaks highly of me when you decide to do business with me. I do a few other things, and I hope that all of you can find some value in what I do. If not, keep watching. Make sure you subscribe and share. But this is how I make how I earn my crust. I don't have a YouTube verification to earn money from that, and I don't think I really want to, because I don't need them breathing down my jockstrap about what I'm saying. And that's that little spiel. Before we get too far away and before we log off, Mo, you can go first. Tell them why you're qualified to talk about vaping and medical issues.
Oh, I'm a ER travel nurse. I also am getting my doctorate as a nurse practitioner, a background in psychology, and I also do a little bit of freelance grant writing, as well as like some medical practice consulting. When I talked about being a hired gun for medical services, because I usually work in rural healthcare and fill in a number of facilities as a nurse there. And so that's my background, medical.
And Ruby, can you tell us why they should listen to you? Like what your qualifications are besides smoking methamphetamines with vodka on screen?
You are adorable. I'm telling you, he doesn't like me. Yeah, no, you know what? Here's the thing. Obviously everyone knows that my background is in psychology, neuroscience, and behavior. And I think the thing that's important here, though, as well, which people don't really realize, is that there's a lot of science that we have to take in this degree, first of all. But second of all, I go to one of the top research schools in the world. So research is my thing. So I'm the type of person where I don't jump into anything. I did not just jump into vaping because it was fun or because other people were doing it. I actually did a lot of research before I even started, and I continued to research thereafter. And I'm actually very good at it. It's something I'm very good at reading, at compiling, at understanding. So when I'm talking about, for example, the fact that the BBC Health report that's 200 pages and was a literature review basically of hundreds of studies that have been done about vaping. I'm saying I've actually read the studies themselves. I didn't just read what people said about the studies for us
But
to
your
be able
education
to.
doesn't give you any credence over vaping, right? Like your formal education as a psychologist, right?
Well, no, my formal education as a researcher though gives me a little bit of credence as far as being able to read and analyze the research about all of this vaping stuff, which I actually did myself. I did not read other people's articles about it. They said this, they said that. I've read the research myself. I've looked at the data myself and actually analyzed it myself as well. So if you don't believe overall that my qualifications and
I
the
didn't
type.
say I didn't
No,
believe.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. I'm saying people. I'm not talking about you. Listen, I
You're
already know you don't believe nothing I say. I'm talking to other people.
sensitive Ruby. That should be your new name.
No. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, you said, like, for people, right? It comes down to, if you don't believe at the end of the day that my background in psychology, neuroscience, and behavior at one of the top research schools in the world, in research, gave me the proficiency of being able to deeply research something that I'm interested in or that affects me personally, well, then it is what it is. But I'm just going to say this. America and Americans should look at why it is that every country except for America is jumping on the vaping bandwagon after their health experts have looked into vaping and have said, government wide, has said, no, this is what we want for our people. America and Americans should look at the fact that America sued the tobacco companies and won $40 billion, which they decided they were going to get yearly, a percentage of what the tobacco companies made. And then based on that, what they did was they borrowed $40 billion from a bunch of lenders and then estimated that they could keep it at about a 2% rate per year of overall people quitting smoking, right? And that's how much money they were going to pay back yearly. So when vaping came out and suddenly the rates were dropping at 5%, 10%, 20% per year, and they have absolutely no control over this. They're not making any money from it, and they're also not making enough money from the tobacco companies now for them to pay off their debts. You might be able to understand why the American government has such a targeted issue with vaping and has been going on these scare tactic campaigns for years now.
I think another important piece of what you're saying too is that a lot of people and a lot of municipalities sold bonds for municipal bonds, state and city bonds, based on the idea of that future revenue. And so some of those bonds come due and that money simply isn't there from those large tobacco companies. It's an increased impetus for them to be so negative against it, because now we have investors, a government, and city and state local governments that have a lot of debt out there that they've already written to be true. And the last thing you want to have is, municipal and city bonds are some of the most stable assets. And the last thing you want to do is have something like that being downgraded. And so it causes a large problem in the industry for many financial sectors and groups as well. So there's a lot of pressure from a lot of different areas to make vaping sound more dangerous than it is, when I don't feel that that's true. And none of the science makes sense that it is more dangerous.
Wow.
Exactly.
Well, here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to go too far in the weeds with something unrelated. We tend to do that. I want to say thank you both for coming on, for sharing with me, for helping me get through a little bit of this issue. And I'm really appreciative of everybody who's joined us in the chat on the side. Hey, just ask Char. Char, if you want to put the link in the comments, I'll wait like an extra second or two As a matter of fact, while I'm waiting for you to add that, because I hope you can show it to us, I'm going to find out if...
Are you Canadian? I just had that question because you say a boot.
I do not. I do not say that. Yes, I'm Canadian. I say about like normal people. Thank
You say a boot.
I do not. Y'all are so wrong. I am Canadian though. I'm from Toronto, Ontario.
Don't judge them all by her though, Mo. I mean, there are some good ones out there.
I'm his least favorite Canadian. He says this. He says the wickedest things, but only about me. He likes everyone but me. I don't know what I ever did to him.
There's a lot of love between the two of you. That's what I think is going on, really.
Star runs an advice channel. I'd want everybody to check her out too. What did I say about YouTube? It's a place where everybody can get some shine. I don't lose anything by bringing you other good quality people to connect with. I know that little bar on the side. I hope I'm pointing the right way. Will show people, oh, it's you should join this and join that random person. Listen, I'm telling you, here are the people that I enjoy listening to. They can bring you semi-sane, reasonable discussion.
About a lot of topics.
You know what? I don't appreciate you. I don't say like about. How does that sound like a boot to you?
It sounds like a weird Canadian thing.
There's no way I could have guessed you were Canadian if I didn't hear you say it.
But you're saying I say a boot, and I'm like, I don't say a boot. I say about.
What you do though?
It'd be a really, really random way that I could guess that you were Canadian without you giving me a hint some way.
But like, okay, you don't hear the difference between me saying a boot and about? Like, you don't hear the difference between those two things? Like, they sound the same?
I don't think that you hear it because you do it sometimes. You switch between it. That was just funny to me. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's good to be Canadian,
I don't think I do it. Like, I'm not like...
You do.
Okay, I'm going to listen to the tape. That's what I'm doing.
Hey, listen, everybody. I've got to hand out some cookies behind stage. Thanks, everybody, for popping in. Make sure you click the subscribe, the bell, the thumbs up. I appreciate all that. More importantly, share this somewhere. Share it online. Share it on your Tinder account. You can actually say, listen, we both like each other. When we get done banging uglies, we should have discussions at least as deep as these guys because we're going to be there anyway for a little while, right? I mean, you rent the room for like 6 hours and it's only going to take you, what, 45 minutes? You got to have something to talk about. You might as well be talking about something like this.
Not a bad plug.
Mm-hmm.
At least until the Uber gets there.
Wait, Mo, do you actually tell her the Uber is coming or do you just let it be a surprise when it pulls up?
Oh, you can tell people. Once you get all your stuff.
Oh, no.